I don't know. Can we officially at this point say that Menou is somehow connected to Ivory? It felt like this part of the story is just saying, hey, by the way, Menou is either Ivory or the child of Ivory or something to do with Ivory. It has to be something to do with Ivory. I mean, that does make a lot of sense. It honestly does. I mean, yes. So to get it out of the way, obviously a lot of points throughout this episode. Pandemonium is continuously saying that Menou is doing something that Ivory did. The power that you use is similar to Ivory. I feel like I sense Ivory in you. Oh, you were able to pull that off? That's just like Ivory in a sense. It keeps hitting on Ivory. Now again, who is Ivory? Ivory is this otherworlder that they turned into this hero that eventually, lost it. And now, what's the earliest point that we know about Menou? Menou, the earliest point that we see Menou is following this big catastrophe that was caused by Orwell messing with these concepts. But it's odd. Why was Menou the only one that survived? Well, what's the thing that we keep running into, especially with Akari? Even though she's really powerful, her ability does not overcome those which are more powerful than her. So, if Menou is somehow connected to Ivory, is a child of Ivory, is the spawn of Ivory, and somehow that would explain why she wouldn't be touched by this girl that's going crazy. She was not turned into ash because she was more powerful than that girl. But that's just pretty much, again, where they're kind of pegging me at right now with how much emphasis Pandemonium was putting on Menou being connected to this most powerful user ever. But at any rate, the rest of episode 11, I'm already kind of a little bit miffed right now because, shoot, we are only one more episode left for this season, and I kind of don't want this show to end. I do hope that we get a second season announced, but we'll have to see. I don't know how far we've adapted in the light novel, if we have enough content to get into. Maybe somebody that is familiar with the light novel can let me know if we have enough for another season or if this is probably it for now. But yes, fantastic episode overall, except for the very end of it. But we'll get into that when we get to it. But yeah, basically just this fight between Menou and Pandemonium. Like I said, the entire time Pandemonium bringing up the concepts of Ivory, bringing up essentially what's driving her. Despite the fact that Pandemonium has pretty much lost her mind, her only focus at this point, the only remaining thing that she has from her previous life in Japan is B-movies. So that's all she cares about. I just want to make movies. That's all she remembers. That's all she cares about. This one thing that doesn't exist in this world, she wants to create it. So she's creating this whole catastrophe just to reproduce some sort of movie that will entertain her. But she does also recognize the idea that she is the weakest of the four major human errors. But that doesn't mean that she's weak. Let's be perfectly honest. She does reveal that Ivory actually created the fog. As there's a little bit of a confusion as to Pandemonium's name, obviously Menou's like, wait, you're the fog? She's like, no, I'm not the fog. I've always been Pandemonium. It was Ivory that created the fog, and then you people basically called the fog Pandemonium. Which is interesting because that kind of leads me to believe that Ivory sealed away Pandemonium. Which I'm wondering if it's something that Pandemonium doesn't remember. Was it Ivory that actually sealed her away? Or was it Ivory created the fog and then mankind used that to trap her away? Briefly, we see that Akari does go to see Momo and reveals that she doesn't like Momo. Like, this is the first time she's met in this timeline, but just to be clear, I don't like you. You always seek to keep Menou away from me. So it's a two-sided thing, Momo. Just so we know, Momo, it's a two-sided thing. You both don't like the fact that each other take you away from Menou. I really do believe you both need to come together, realize 3's better than 2. But it was cute because she still does use her ability to remove the poison from Momo. Cutting back over to the Princess Ashina, she does find out that like 100 people have been sacrificed, which does lead Menou eventually to realize that that means that she possibly has 100 lives, because it does seem like whenever somebody dies, she spawns from it. So I guess I can see the conclusion there, but yes, this does lead us to the pairing that I never thought I wanted. Like, I honestly loved Momo and Ashina, and now to see Menou and Ashina working together was like awesome. I love the princess carry of Menou. I guess it's that thing that I think I just love Ashina. I think Ashina is just a fantastic character. Like, she is the character that at first seems like some sort of, not a villain, but some sort of force that's going to cause problems, and turns into something, again, that's more of a neutral party that I really do like. And yeah, she sort of is saber-ish. The idea that she just has the Excalibur blade thing. But yes, this does lead to Menou to realize, yes, she has 100 lives, but I think I have a way of just taking her out immediately, which is to apparently have Ashina drill an attack into the very core, down to the earthen vein, and then she creates some sort of pillar that connects both the earthen vein and the heavenly vein to essentially create an infinite loop that Pandemonium's put inside of, which is absolutely crazy. And yes, Ashina at this point kind of acknowledges just how much skill it requires to be able to tap into both of those veins at the same time and control that ether. Despite the fact that Pandemonium believes that Menou doesn't have much ether, she's still able to control it really well. Again, kind of harkening back to the whole situation with Akari on the train. She was able to tap into Akari's power and utilize it in a very powerful way. She might not have that power, but she can control it. But of course, that doesn't work out. That'd be too easy. And then this big, huge squid thing shows up, which doesn't seem to bother Menou too long because she realizes the fog surrounding it. So that means that they're not released from the fog yet. Like, the fog is still enveloping them, so it's just gonna get pulled back eventually anyways. Which does get to the big reveal that we get from the conversation between Pandemonium and Akari. She doesn't want Akari to go over there because that would ruin the show. No, that's gonna make things too easy. Don't go back there. Instead, that turns into a long conversation between the two of these where we find out a few things. One is that Pandemonium never really escaped the fog. Apparently, after all these resets that Akari was doing, the earth itself was just kind of creaking under the stress, and until eventually she could get her pinky out of there enough that she can essentially create some sort of being outside of the fog, which does indicate that, yes, this crazy beast that she summoned, herself is still technically trapped in there. Like, her core form is still in the fog. It's just that she's able to kind of seep out a little bit and create these entities outside of it, which does mean that technically I don't think they'll ever actually kill Pandemonium. The only thing they can really do is either disperse the fog or just close that gap. But this is where we get some really cool stuff around Pandemonium really picking at Akari. She wants to know more about the world that she left behind, and Akari has that knowledge. Her mind is so eroded, she has no memories of her past life. Again, the only thing that she really does seem to have is this concept that she was there and that she liked these B movies. But Akari doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't care about it. All she has is bad memories. I got a kick out of this. I'm nothing against High Dive, but I love the fact that we finally for once got a translator note. Like, it's been so long since I've seen a translator note in a official website like Crunchyroll or High Dive. But it has like this whole scene where she's in front of her desk and there's a flower on it. Which, yes, if you're a longtime anime fan or if you're knowledgeable about Japanese culture and stuff, you'll know that a flower on a student's desk means that they have passed away. But it decides a note. Putting flowers on a desk is a way of signifying that you're mourning a loss. And then it puts in parentheses, in other words, she's being bullied. It's like, yes, that is true. I had a tweet like, yes, just in case you did not know, she's not really dead. Thus meaning she's being bullied. For those in the back of the classroom that don't seem to get this, she's being bullied right now. I just got a kick out of it. I don't know why. I had to laugh quite a bit today. But as Pandemonium is kind of picking at Akari, she's noting the idea that she will eventually lose it as well. Like, she says that you can't keep using your power. You're there. It seems like Pandemonium knows that Akari's at that bridge. She says, you don't even remember how you used to act. And sure enough, that seems to be indicated by the idea that when Akari fires at Pandemonium, that last memory of her being bullied fades away. So this kind of indicates this point that she's lost everything. Like, this one last stain in her mind that she can't forget, which is that she was bullied in this previous world, she's lost that. She no longer has any connection to her previous life, which indicates that at this point she had already forgotten everything that possibly was good about the previous world. Obviously, she's very connected to Menou because of that, but additionally, because of this last use of her ability, she's lost even that one stain. But as Pandemonium returns, the interesting thing that she says here is that she's at a dead end. That despite the fact that she wants Menou to kill her so badly, she's failed. Like, you are at a dead end. You have finally reached this one reset where you can't fix it. And why she says this? She says to the people that can connect to the astral archive, your regression means nothing. Meaning whatever you're doing, how you regress, losing yourself means nothing. You're not the main character, is what she's basically saying. She says what this astral archive is the memories of this planet and what powers ether. The origin of the Lord written about in the priestess's scriptures. She says there's no way to cheat this dead end. It's no accident that you keep failing. Because every time you think you're going to get to that ending you want, somebody's using their powers to make you fail. And that person that seems to come to mind to Akari is Flare. Now, I don't know if that is just what Akari thinks, because obviously Flare is the one that keeps showing up at the end and ruining everything. But if we do remembering back when they had that last failure before they did the big reveal about the big reset, Flare was carrying that sword that turns things to salt. Does kind of indicating that Flare is something special. And again, recalling that Flare can see the connection of the pure concepts to souls. It seems like Flare does everything outside of the norms. We've never seen Menou see a pure concept attached to a soul. She has to ask and have them show their ability before she knows what they can do. Flare knows what they can do. Again, she technically knew that Manon's mom had a pure concept and was attached to her soul. She knew that Manon herself did not have a pure concept. And again, I know that some people disagree with me in the last video, which is fine. I argue Flare knew exactly what Manon's mother's ability was, even though she never used it. Have we ever seen Menou say, oh, that schoolboy from the first episode, he can do void. Oh, Akari, she can control time. She thought Akari had healing ability. She didn't know Akari was turning back time. Everything seemed to indicate that Flare is an anomaly. That Flare, again, technically could be the Lord that they indicate in their scriptures. So it's very curious. Again, I'm sadly not thinking we're going to cover that in one more episode, so that sucks. It almost feels like we have our source material bait right here, and that the last episode is going to be, let's fight Pandemonium, fight her back, and then everybody goes to the sunset. But yes, also the other thing, before I forget, the other thing that Pandemonium mentions is that she knows that there is a way back to Japan. Now, is she teasing Akari is the big question mark. Is she just saying that just to draw Akari into the fog? Maybe in the next episode she'll say, it's in the fog, come to the fog with me, and then she'll realize, no, you're lying. Or is this aspect that dying returns you? Is she going to say that? Can Flare return you? It's very curious. I'll be interested to see how that kind of rolls out. The other thing that we kind of haven't been solved, or at least a mystery we haven't had solved that might be tied into this episode, was the mention that Manon's mother wasn't summoned there, but that she was guided by the stars. Is that the astral archive? Is that Flare? Why would Flare bring in them just to kill them? So I don't think that that's true, but at least this idea of mentioning that there's this kind of astral archive or whatever, which again, they're kind of equating to Flare, indicates that there's something outside the norm that is really controlling things, gods or something that are playing games with the people. But we'll see where that goes. But that's my thoughts on episode 11 of The Executioner and Her Way of Life. I actually had a lot more to talk about than I originally thought, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode and my crazy theories. Subscribe if you have not already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. We also have a super thanks button down there where you can support us directly through YouTube. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.